I'm here with Kristen Henderson. She is my co-parenting counselor who my ex-wife and I worked with for a while. And I just wanted to share some of what I've been able to experience working with her because I feel she's a miracle worker. I know that when we first come to you, the first thing, one of the first things you say is it's not really co-parenting as much as it is high conflict. And what brought you to being somebody who can work in high conflict? What brought you to the co-parenting side of the world versus, I don't know, let's say working between civil lawsuits or working in business?
The communication aspect of it. Frankly, growing up in a family where I was kind of the mediator between a lot of communication dynamics certainly did usher me into the direction that ultimately my career ended up taking. But really, it was joining the practice that I'm at now where my supervisor does a lot of mediation, family therapy, couples counseling, and high conflict co-parenting. And that's really just kind of been my niche since the get-go. I find a transformational element to just ironing out some roadblocks in communication in our lives. Stress goes down, life satisfaction goes up, depending on the situation. The bonds in our relationship, we find fulfillment in that. So really just, I see a lot of benefit to something that is simple. It's not easy, but it's pretty straightforward. It's, let's pivot the way that we're communicating and do it in a way that really gets us towards our goals.
Before we get into the how and the strategy, do you find at all that, is there a pattern that either the male or the female is typically more the problem when you see a new divorced couple?
I don't know that it's more gendered as much as it is sort of depending on how the relationship ended. If a partner feels more betrayed than another one, there's going to be more resistance, more propensity to want to use resentment, retaliation, and really kind of being stuck in the past. If the mother is taking on more of that sort of primary caretaker role, depending on what the custody arrangement is, it might play a part. There might be some protective elements of trust. I don't know, don't touch what we have going on, stay where you're at, stay put. So, it really kind of runs the gamut in that sense.
So the first thing that I remember when we sat down with you, I had no idea what to expect. I remember you saying, what are some things that you think are cool about your kids? And then you said, what are some things that you think the other person does well in parenting? And I didn't realize what you were doing then. But I ultimately came to understand that you were trying to bring agreement into place. Do you find that it's like you mentioned earlier, it's not as easy, not necessarily simple, but does it really sometimes just come down to that there's just a blockage in the pipe, and that really has been brought about by some sadness and breakup and conflict that really can just be cleared up?
So here's the thing that really distinguishes co-parenting counseling from every other sort of type of counseling that I do, which is we are not looking to repair the relationship between these two parties, but we are here to rebuild trust in this one thing that we share, which is the best interest of the child. And I can now rely on you and see that investing in this trust with you as a co-parent will actually benefit this person who I love more than anything. And so using that as the bridge and really the focus, I know especially in the beginning, I really emphasize that it's child-centered. I'm not here to really explore the past. It's future-oriented, getting that shift away from processing the past. And I'll even refer people to individual counseling or say, hey, talk to your friends and family about this, the frustrations that you feel, but this isn't the space. We're really wanting to reach that initial agreement that you kind of picked up on, which is, hey, we actually do share a common interest here. And with that, it really kind of paves the way to what we're doing, the work that we do eventually, which is about the child or children.
It seems like in our age bracket, in the people getting divorced group in this age bracket, that there are more and more stories. I don't have the statistics, nor am I super interested in them. You might have them, but there's a large increase in the amount of really insane custody battles, and where there's going to court over you didn't do the kids shampoo in the morning, or going to court over things that if you were married you wouldn't even have thought twice about. What do you think's leading to this increase?
I don't know if there's anything that I can pinpoint has caused an increase in kind of the pettiness, I guess, that you're describing, the vindictiveness. I wonder if it's kind of always existed, but perhaps seeing I can use the legal system to really stick it to this person who's caused me a lot of pain, and I'm not going to make their life easy because they've made my life so hard. Again, I think though that if we really can reflect on, do we want to be doing this? Do we want to be spending time, money, energy into sort of causing pain to another person, inconveniencing our own lives when there is an alternative solution? And there's always that. And I'll say that, we can default back to where you were if that's kind of the direction, if you want everything spelled out, if you want to be going tit for tat. It's a lot of energy and effort. And there's this kind of other option that, that we can take over here.
Have you ever considered why courts, judges aren't recommending or having as a default before cases even go down that road that they come to someone like you?
I wish they did. I wish that the legal system at large was really set up for rehabilitation, growth, really leaning on our mental health services, which there's a shortage compared to the need. But yeah, certainly I can see that it would be helpful. Although not everyone is really cut out for, not everyone is in the space where they're able to really see the opportunity there.
Part of my opinion, and I know we talked about this a lot, and is that being ready, willing, and able to co-parent, and I'm not a professional, so my opinion is just that it really is the best interest of the kid. And so if somebody's not, like, let's say a judge or let's say the legal system were designed to heal and designed to really think of what's best for the kids, and before you start bringing in a motion for full custody because you didn't do hairspray in the morning, that you go see Kristen. And so if somebody's not ready, willing, and able, then am I wrong to think that maybe they're also not exactly in the right space to be taking the kids' interest first?
I think that one of the biggest blocks to having successful co-parenting sort of counseling outcomes is when a parent is in a place where they're unable to recognize that they're putting themselves before their child. They might be really steeped in, for lack of a better term, sort of their own delusion or defenses, I guess is more appropriate, and even be thinking that, this is best for my kid. I am doing what's best for my kid. So, but there's a disconnect into really being, that self-awareness, reflection, more kind of critical thinking of the situation at large that I think impedes some parents' abilities to actually do what's best for their child. And in some cases, that the other co-parent is a danger to the child, and we don't want that situation, and they're really not cut out for what I do.
Right. So in the, let's say the spectrum of not being totally cut out for the kid, because obviously it was really, for those people, not much anybody can do. Is there such a thing as what is best for a kid after divorce? Sorry.
Stability, consistency, love from two parents, especially if the co-parents are the biological parents, knowing, the child knowing that they came from two people who do have unconditional love and respect, and they're not going anywhere, and they're willing to put their own shit aside to do what's best for their child, is going to make a child really feel loved and feel, that if mom thinks one thing, dad can get on board, or dad has the basic respect to what mom's doing over here, and I can't manipulate what's going on in each house. I'm not, I don't feel ashamed by enjoying being with my dad because my mom hates my dad. I can really just kind of share this life, and it makes the transition a lot smoother. And we know that in divorced households, it causes a lot of anxiety when there's not that stability and sort of smooth transition. You'll see the behavior in the children really start to suffer when there's inconsistency or, feuding households or things like that. It really puts them in the middle, whether or not that's your intention, sort of bad-mouthing your co-parent or making them choose different things. It's a lot of stress for a kid to have to make those choices between two people that they love and admire.
What kind of long-term consequences can that have on the kid?
Depending on kind of how it materializes. Behavioral stuff certainly can cause a lot of setbacks, and people that come into my chair for individual counseling and we're in a divorced household, there's a lot of stuff, Matt, that just really, it makes it hard later on. I ask a lot, how did you receive love? Things that kind of, I guess, just materializes depression and anxiety later. When you experience tough times as a kid, they show up.
Makes a lot of sense, and hopefully can be avoided in general. And there's a range of where a co-parenting relationship can end up. It can end up with just no toxicity and following a contract. It can end up with families being at dinner together. It can run a real gamut. I know there's no one size fits answer, but what would be a good expectation? Like, where would you say is like, this is a good goal for the average couple, in the sense that not what's good for you guys, but it's a good goal for what's good for the kids?
I think respecting some degree of boundaries and avoiding enmeshment or, overlap where the co-parents are really close. I can see that setting things up for issues, but it's really, it's what works best for that family system. We use the example of owning a business together, owning and operating a business. We have two business owners, and you can kind of think of it like that. It can get messy. People say, don't mix friends and business, because when tough decisions have to be made, we want to be able to come together and really focus on the business and not say, yeah, you kind of did me wrong, but you're my friend, so I feel like I can't say anything or whatever. I don't know. I guess it's kind of similar with co-parenting in some sense of, if we're super close and doing everything together, I could see it being problematic. I don't know, though. I don't know that I would really stand firmly in saying that we can't have a certain degree of overlap. I think it's really just up to the parents and the family system of what works for them.
In the range of co-parenting relationships, it can go from total hostile, like can't even see each other, dropping off at the police station, crazy things. And it can also go up to being able to have a dinner here or there, let the kids see you guys together. But both sides, the top side might not be realistic for everybody. The bottom side is definitely horrible. But at what point, when we're talking about the child, and let's say you're doing a drop off or an exchange, and you're looking, the kid is looking out, and the mom and dad don't even necessarily say hello, but it's not negative. Do you think that people should at least be saying, hi, how are you? Like, is it too idealistic to think about modeling to your children about how to have a relationship with somebody that you did have a setback with?
I think that it's really important to greet the other co-parent to some extent, so that your child is picking up on the consistency across the households. There's uniformity. We are a family. Family might not look like everyone else's family, but we're a family unit, and my parents respect each other.
Absolutely. So there's both genders. This isn't a male or female thing from my question, but sometimes somebody really thinks when they're going to court or they're trying to take the kids or really make these fights or change schedules, that they're doing what's best for the kid. And just like if you're voting for a certain party and you're really into it, you really think you're doing the right thing. How do you know if realistically I should be trying to adjust how much my kid sees this other parent versus how much of this is just my own vengeance and anger?
I think that taking the time to reflect on why it's not beneficial to your child, what you're observing, the impacts that are directly on your child, and if any of those are your own projections, kind of pulling it out of that list and reflecting on those things alone. And it's an honest reflection with yourself, an honest conversation with yourself of, what am I really observing when my child is with their other parent? And if there's opportunity to bring the attention, to the other parent, it depends on how much that parent is really invested in the child versus themselves. If you go to that parent and say, I've noticed that when they're at your house, they come home and there's this huge shift in behavior, and I'm wanting to understand that, and I'm thinking that it might be linked to this thing that's going on. And a parent who is child-centered, that's going to be really important to them. They're going to hear that and say, oh, wow, what is going on? Let's take a look at that. Let's adjust some stuff. And a parent who might be really steeped in their own stuff might put up kind of a defensive posture. You don't know what you're talking about. Why are you coming at me? Focus on yourself. And being able to really differentiate where your co-parent is at can tell you a lot too of kind of their approach.
I want to go back to one of the points you made earlier, that when you have a divorced high conflict couple or even just divorced couple coming in, you make it so clear, and you made it clear. I remember you making it clear to me, and I heard you, one of the first things you said on this call, that this is so different in the sense that you're not trying to repair old wounds. How do you find and create that buy-in to, people are really hurting, and if they haven't done that individual work necessarily, but like people are really, it's really a painful experience, right? And then they come, and part of the reason we have this high conflict is because, well, I'm angry that this happened 3 years ago, and I'm angry that this happened 8 years ago. So like, how did you come to like really come up with this methodology of realizing, cool, but not right now?
Realizing very quickly that it'll get in the way and that you'll be spending the entire session rehashing some conflict about, coffee grinds 10 years ago that got left out, and it can turn sideways really quickly, and realizing, okay, I need to really front load. And at the outset, first of all, I will say I kind of take inventory. I like to meet with each parent separately and kind of take inventory of where they're at. What are we working with? What kind of triggers and baggage and pain are we starting with? And if those triggers, hostility, are really getting in the way of the work, I will recommend that a co-parent or both co-parents really seek individual counseling, either in conjunction with, or we'll kind of pause this and let's kind of get some support and process individually what happened in this relationship, so that we can show up to this in a place where we can kind of navigate those triggers, and we have skill sets that, if my child's parent says something that's reminiscent, really I'm flooded with emotion, that I now have the skills and kind of know what to do with that and how to navigate that. That's really important.
Yeah, and there are a lot of benefits selfishly too, right? Like, I find that court is really stressful. I don't like it. I also find that it's expensive, and that we really don't like. And and you think about all that money that the kids could go to the Tahiti 10 times, on occasion, if and so there really is like a lot of intrinsic motivation to be able to say, this may be not the right way for us, but it does make me sad, honestly, when I come back to, when you get a divorce, you don't have anything but the people around you. Not all the time are people able to see two things at the same time. That, yeah, you could be angry at him or her for this and this, but now you don't have to be married to the person anymore. And so I think it's sometimes very challenging when when your circle has a lot of charged up emotions, and go get him and go get her, and I keep trying to say, I'm not trying to be politically correct or anything. I'm just, when I say him or her, it's not but when when it comes to it, it's really there should be almost a selfish level, and I try to encourage a lot of my guy friends, go pursue it, and I do find a lot of resistance, and it's really not a therapy. It's not like if I said go to therapy, I would oh, I'm a man, I don't need therapy. But this is, you're not trying to get your ex-wife back. You're not trying to win her back here.
I think there's a lot of barriers to mental health in general, from people, stigma still really kind of being around entering any kind of therapy. And counseling, you hear, co-parenting counseling, you might think, oh, couples counseling, oh, what are you doing? Don't you hate them? Think of what they did to you. Why are you even entertaining that? I think maybe because people look at people who are able to co-parent effectively as so vastly different from where they might be, that they think, oh, that's not us. We can't get there. Like, look, clearly they didn't have a bad breakup. They must have, amicably divorced or separated or whatever. And, us, that is not us. And that's really just not the case. I mean, every couple that I have worked with that comes to co-parenting is a high conflict couple. There is a lot of stuff, years, decades of pain that we're, I'm having to ask them to kind of set aside in service, again, of their child. And that's kind of the key element. So with those people that, it's like, oh, just go get them, you might say, or even think to yourself, is that in the best interest of my child? I'm not doing this because I'm out of the, kindness of my heart towards my ex. It's for my children.
Absolutely. And I mean, I that's really why I wanted to record with you, so that cause I just don't think that this is a message that is a big or popular one. It's certainly not in the interest of divorce lawyers to promote you. It doesn't make any sense.
And that's something too, right? You go the legal route, and they'll help you spell out a parenting plan, but they're not teaching you the skills
Exactly.
to do that. So yeah, got to go back to them every time we want to modify. And every time your children reach a new developmental sort of milestone or stage, things are going to need to be moved around. That's life. And the older they get, the more things will need to be moved around. They have now friends, different schedules, different behavioral stuff that we're having. There's such a huge benefit of us being able to be flexible, to pivot, to really collaborate so that this teenager isn't manipulating both households, and that we can really kind of lock down on a plan here. So the court, you're going to have to keep going back there to either update that, or there's just going to be kind of chaos. So really, you imagine, that's a good business model. Keep coming back to us, and we'll see in a couple of years when shit hits the fan again. Versus, here's some basic skills. You can revise your own stuff, what works for your household, and hopefully, I'm not seeing you a ton.
Yeah. It's like preventative care versus,
yeah, exactly.
And so I do really find it to be a shame. And I also do find that it's considered such an impossible thing to pull off. And not only do you impact your kids, but people around you are inspired, because you don't get to see things like that are impossible happen a lot, right? And people, anybody around you knows you've been involved with some drama, and then when that goes away, it's positive feeling, wrinkles leave your face, your money's saved in your bank account, like your kids are happy and you have energy for them, and like it's just so it really is a shame on that level.
It's really normal to show up to the process though with really low hopes. A lot of times the other co-parent's not mutually selected. People are kind of, one person elects this, and it might come from the court that they did kind of build this into their plan here, and the other co-parent's kind of reluctant and sees really no hope or value in this. So that initial buy-in is important, and it's tough.
Yeah, right. The thing that I kind of just tell people, even if you're not going to go, try to think of like one thing that you're doing passive aggressively and stop it. Because people do it. Like, I know guys do it. Like, somebody will tell me, well, I dropped the kids off 2 minutes late. I don't know how that's serving, how's that serving you? Don't do that. And you're not going to go to the counseling. These things pay off. I just see it right now with myself. Like like what you were able to do. And like you said, if you really think about it, it's a very short amount of time, and not every week, even not and definitely not multiple times a week. And then you just find out like, hey, this person is also, you come to the table, you say, what can I do better? The other person does too. And it's just what I also found too, is that the payoff is not later only, it's now, right away. And so a lot of times those wins help your muscle memory so that you're interested in doing more of it.
Yeah. And I think those early wins are important, and focusing on, what can I do this week? A lot of the early process is this kind of skill building. How are we communicating? Do this, not that kind of stuff. And can I hear a commitment that we're going to try this week? And when there's a mutual commitment of, fine, we'll try it. And then we come back next week and we actually reflect and say, yeah, you know what, that did work pretty well. Then we start to really see momentum shift. And the process now becomes, goes from this kind of ominous, hopeless thing to, hey, yeah, okay, all right, we're starting to see some change here. And then we start to see some change in the kids. They start to observe what's going on. Pieces start to click, bit by bit. And it doesn't take a tremendous amount of time and energy, of the co-parenting counseling to get there and to start tracking that change.
Yeah. So if anybody is interested in reaching out to you, what's the website that they can go to, or send you a consultation request?
So my practice is called Tampa Bay Therapy, and you can reach me. My email is kristen@tampabaytherapy.net.
Thanks for doing this. I hope it helps as many people as humanly possible that need it, because God knows it's a painful experience and it doesn't have to be.
So true, Matt. Thanks for having me on.